All right, Derek, I appreciate you taking the time to come on today. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing, buddy?
Good, good. So, we were just talking real briefly there, but this is ultimately, I think, the 25th video in a set of videos where the goal is to figure out what's the difference, right? So the difference between, maybe people who make it and don't, and then also golfers who improve versus don't as well. So for the viewers at home who haven't seen you on Instagram, I'm sure if anybody's in golf Instagram, they've seen you. But if they haven't, maybe explain a little bit of your background, who you are, and the kind of players that you work with.
Yeah, my name is Derek Deminsky. I've been teaching. I'm the director of instruction at the 49 Country Club in Tucson, Arizona for the last 17 years now. I'm originally from Minnesota. It's kind of where I grew up and learned to love the game and play the game and see the process of what it takes to get better myself. So I still play in a lot of local events, play at a fairly high level, I guess you could say at times, and teach everyone from a bunch of tour players to a bunch of new players. It's a passion of mine to help people in this game any way I can. I feel like I'm getting better and better each day at problem solving issues, whether it be short game, that's where a lot of the tour players will hire me, or just teaching new players how to enjoy the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, man. So, short game is a really big focus of mine this year. That's why I'm so excited to have you on. You do something a little bit different. I think now in the world of short game, we get very into there's one method or there's one kind of a way. Maybe talk a little bit about how you analyze players because there are certain things out there that you have different patterns and different frameworks. So maybe talk a little bit about how you determine what is correct for people in terms of steep and shallow and different shots. Maybe talk a little bit about your analysis when you see a player.
Yeah, I'm very flexible. I don't have methods. I've seen a lot of unique ways work, and I'm just trying to figure out why. So yeah, if you're trying to hit certain shots, there's generally certain angles of attack you would want. If you're trying to create a consistent stock shot, there's different options for that. It depends how you move. I always like to see a golfer swing when I work with them because I'm just always interested in what DNA they might bring to their short game and if it's conducive or not. So it's really educating the players on options that can work, but pretty fluid as far as like we mentioned earlier. I've broken it down into essentially like, are you trying to hit the ball clean or are you trying to use the ground? And so often when players struggle, they're kind of caught in the middle. And I've found that there's characteristics that typically work better for ball first, and then there's characteristics that work better for ground first, what I call. So I see people, yeah, there's a lot of great instructors out there, and that's what's so beautiful about our game is you can go to anyone who you feel like is giving good information and getting you better. So being a player myself who in the past has kind of been force-fed info that hasn't been explained, and I've gotten kind of worse because of it. My number one goal is to not screw up anyone. So I'd rather not work with any player before I'd screw them up, and have developed ways to incentivize some changes through like shot shapes and concepts more than like have to straight up change technique. And if we do change technique, I better be able to explain exactly why we would do anything rather than just, oh, do this because I say so.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to look at it. So one of the questions I've always kind of had with some of the stuff that I've seen from you is whenever you're playing, so if you watch some of your Instagram videos, you're doing a lot with shapes, right? Like you're doing a lot with like cut spinners and you're doing a lot with, draws and whatever. How much of that are you doing when you're actually playing tournament rounds? Like, are you actively thinking about that when you're playing tournaments, or is it just kind of like awareness?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's been times where I play what I just call Bubba golf, Bubba Watson, where I have a high intention for every shot shape. With a lot of the kids I teach, and what ends up happening when people struggle is they can only do one thing. They only have their swing. They have no problem-solving abilities. So like with a lot of the kids I teach them how to hit, pull fades and push draws. And at that point, if you have both of those skills, you can always find the middle, right? Because there's really two shot shapes in golf. There's not like 10 shot shapes. So And I'll teach a lot of skill stuff as well because I do feel like the average person is so underskilled. And I see the freedom of teaching skills and shot shapes. It often frees people up to think of the golf club like the tool that it is. And there's different ways you can use the tool. So at times I will shot shape everything because, again, trying to hit the ball straight, especially like if I'm a little bit off form, which is pretty common in my swing nowadays. Had a good session today, but it can just give a really clear intention into what you're trying to do. When I shape shots, it's usually pretty significant. Double crossing to me is kind of a wild concept because if you're trying to hit big shapes, like my fades are always going to fade. My draw's going to generally draw because I'm not trying to hit a 1 yard fade. I'm really shaping it and being artistic. And it's a fun way to play. You see guys like Justin Thomas when he had that awesome round at the Players. Guys like Sahith, one of my favorite guys on tour, just super skilled. Even Scotty, when you see these guys in unique situations that you might only hit this shot once in your life, ball way back, super hinged, trap down to 60 because you're up, next to a out of bounds post like I've been at times, you better be able to solve problems. And often players are undercoached skills and problem-solving abilities, in my opinion.
I think this is a really good segue. So I'm doing some really interesting work right now with Gareth McShay from Aimpoint Golf over in Ireland, and we're having conversations around skill acquisition and development. It's very similar to like what Carl Morris is doing over in England. He was also on the show. How do you go about developing skills with people? And do you feel like there's really a big shift in instruction currently towards more skill acquisition? Like we see players like Scotty who are obviously so incredibly skilled, with the implement, right, of doing that. So, how are you going about doing that?
Yeah, I feel like skills are more important than most people think, meaning because I can hit on command. I teach this to my kids too. Because I can hit heel shanks on command, I can start the club anywhere and hit on the heel. And I can start the club anywhere and hit on the toe. Because I can do that is why I hit it centered.
It's like Adam Young. It's Adam Young stuff.
Because I can hit big push draws is why I can hit it generally straight. Because I can intentionally top the ball, hit the equator of the ball, helps me hit the ball solid. But when you're stuck doing things one way and it doesn't work at times and you have no problem solving ability, again, with a lot of the kids I teach, I just teach them all these outlying skills. So we never work on contact. We never have to work on their swings because they develop a neutral swing as you have both skills, fades and draws. They're struggling and they call me and they're like, hey, I can't stop hooking. I'm like, you know what to do. Just go hit some fades. Like, how to solve this. So I want all the players I work with also to be able to solve themselves. I enjoy coaching. And I should be able to explain why we're doing everything, but I want you to own your game and know what you need to do so that when you're on the course and you're having a couple bad first holes, you can problem solve the last 15 to bring it a pretty good score into the house. I don't want when you just feel off like you can't do anything. So problem solving and skills really do hold up on a golf course more than golf swings generally. What pros are really good at, and I think Scotty talked about it, at Quail, it didn't even seem, I was out there for the week, it just didn't even seem like that for that first 9. He's like, I didn't have anything. Well, I think he maybe shot like par. That course was playing hard, man. And then he, him and his caddy Ted problem solved his pulls, and then he got it back. So he could have just sat and pulled everything or aimed more right, and but he had a way to solve it in a high pressure situation to win by however many you won by. It was awesome golf. That's what it takes. It doesn't take this to like perfect swing, because I've seen enough tour guys out there. They got goofy swings, but man, that ball keeps doing the same thing, or it keeps doing what you can start to expect what your ball is going to do rather than me just hoping I hit it straight and hoping my tolerances are tight. I know this ball is going to move this way, so I can aim this way. And it gives you a greater margin for error in this game that at times feels impossible.
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting, and I feel like I'm seeing such a paradigm shift. Like a lot of the coaches I speak with are based in England and overseas, and they've kind of been talking about it for a little while, but at least over here in America, like I'm starting to see the shift towards skills. So it's pretty cool to hear you talk about that because, I personally, I'm a player, and I've gone down rabbit holes of like perfecting my golf swing, and I don't get any better. Genuinely, like I get better, but like, whereas now we've kind of been focused on like, okay, like you need to be able to flight the ball, and you need to be able to hit a pull cut, and you need to be able to hit a push cut and or a push draw, and like even today, I had a qualifier for my state amateur. Didn't hit it great, but I knew that if I, basically I could hit a pull draw all day long, and I knew I could hit it. And I just scraped that around and got it in. Like it's such a different mindset, I feel like, that's starting to evolve over here at least. At least I'm just
Yeah,
starting to see it. It's new to me.
sure. Yeah, and I can only speak for myself, but just seeing the value of it right now, I'm like 17 years in, about 40,000 lessons deep. So reps over time. Because when I started, I wasn't, I was doing the best I could, but
Yeah, of course.
you have to have reps to figure out how to deal with people. And the thing I like about skills is skills will generally make no one worse. Where if you try to change a technique, man, that player can get worse. And you better explain the process in the short term and long term of the technique change. And that's where I think a lot of golfers, when they get lessons, are failed because they're kind of taught this, like all these, maybe technical things, and they don't, you can get better simpler in a more simple way by learning how to manage your game when it's not at its best. And I think clearly, I mean, Scotty always looks like he's on, right? But man, I think he's just so good at managing his shot shapes and all the stuff that it's just brilliant.
Do you feel like that's a big difference maker even between guys that are on Corn Ferry and PGA? It's just having that level of understanding, one, of their games, and then two, of, I guess the skills and being able to get it around. Because I don't know that I've spoken to enough Corn Ferry players and different things, and they say like there's not a huge difference between the two for at the highest end. So I'm kind of curious your take on it.
Yeah, that's always interesting. I've worked with, I've worked with a bunch of Corn Ferry guys and a bunch of tour guys, and you can see it's pretty clear to see who. There's a player I worked with last year, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're gonna make it. You just hit it so good, like you will make it. And a lot of the kids coming up now, again, how much of the mental gap between Corn Ferry and PGA, I can't quantify that. But then you'll see some PGA Tour guys. A guy I really think is impressive, maybe in my opinion, as impressive of a golfer as you'll see, is look at Zach Blair. When you see him, nothing wows you, but that guy can absolutely golf his ball. He just got into the U.S. Open. I watched, he beat John Peterson, another great story. But like the guy just flat out golfs his ball. And if you say, what does that guy do well? And I've talked to his dad Jimmy before, and he gave a great, he's not big, he's not long. And Jimmy, I played with him at the Skyline Open here. I think Jimmy ended up winning. He's just, they're such a golfing family, and I think they talked, and more than anything, I thought it was brilliant. Like they're on a course, maybe his first PGA Tour event. He's like, hey, do you think you can par this hole? He's like, yeah. Do you think you can par this hole? Because I've always been impressed by Zach Blair. And again, this is really promoting his style of golf. This is no ill will towards him. I just think he's so impressive. And then you see these guys on the lower ends, and they look super impressive. And it's like, why is Zach Blair beating them all the time? And that's kind of an interesting piece alone. The cool thing with our sport is, and that's why I loved, the Monday of the U.S. Open to qualify, because like the cool thing with our sport is if you play great golf at the right time, you'll get where you want to go. And it is always impressive, these tour players who come in on Mondays. And again, I have some amateurs that made it to the Monday, and I have some pros that played in the Monday. And it is just so impressive how those top pros just, even there, can kind of separate themselves from a good amateur and be like on top of the board. Like when it was that playoff, and again, like Eric, who I work with, Van Royen, just played incredible golf, won by 6. So when he's on form, it's like, you saw what he did with Scotty. He played fantastic. Scotty just played, he just had a lead going into Sunday. They played awesome. So, the playoff was what? Max, Ricky, Cam, Chase. It was just like 5 tour players, but it's like I think they all probably felt like they didn't play that well even. But they're just so good at, again, the cool thing with our sport is what's your scorecard say?
Do you see a pretty sizable gap between even like high level amateurs and, let's say like a PGA Tour player in terms of skills like around the greens? Like if we were to get back into, short game stuff, do you see in terms of like maybe either distance control or spin control, trajectory control, like do you see a pretty sizable gap there, or are they obviously it depends on each player, but like generally speaking?
Depends. I mean, I think you could make general assessments that generally the if we take all the PGA Tour players, generally their short games would be better than generally all the Korn Ferry Tour players would generally. So I think just the level of high level golf, just keeps elevating as you get up there. So it's really dependent. I have some amateurs I teach that hit it better than some tour guys I teach. I have some amateur players that short game it great that just don't hit it good enough. So the thing you'll find with most of the top guys, and really what it comes down to on the PGA Tour, you do want to have a great short game, but you don't want to use it a lot. Like a lot of you have to stripe it. You have to really drive it and hit it well. And I think Scotty really exemplifies that because Scotty's short game is leading and scrambling, and the guy hits the ball generationally great, right? So his scrambling's great, but there's been events where the guy could literally putt with a shovel and finish top 10,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's like, how can you score bad from where Scotty's putting the ball? And he's just so smart in where he short games from. A big part of short gaming is where do you short game from?
Yeah.
When people say, hey, teach me how to hit that super high flop shot, I seem to have to hit it a lot. Well, that's your problem. Like,
Why
you're
are
not
you hitting it there?
strokes. Hard short game shots are hard. You want to gain strokes on the easy short game shots, but you have to leave yourself those if you can, and that's just good course management.
No, I think that's a fair point, because even with my own short game, I feel like I've been struggling a little bit this year. But like today, for example, a lot of what I was thinking about whenever I wasn't hitting it great was, okay, if I'm missing, where is the easiest up and down here? Like, or where is the least ridiculous putt? And that's one of the few times I've ever thought about that, because a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I got to hit this lob shot all the time, and I wonder why my short game sucks.
Yeah, not to be your coach, but man, I would think about that a lot. And if you watching Scotty at Memorial, it was just pretty surgical on where he left himself. And also a big part of short gaming is when you're out of position, it's being able to quantify what a good shot would be. A lot of times, if you're way out of position and you can keep it on the right shelf, or again, hit it to 15, 20 feet because you are dead, you need to know when bogey's a good score. And that's important for, because tour guys, they can make a bogey back, no problem. But once you start compounding those errors, they can be score wreckers. And then obviously you can get mad and it can go down a mental shoot as well.
I think where it really started to kind of click for me, you bring up Memorial. On Sunday, I can't remember whether it was like 5 or 7. I don't know the golf course very well. It's par 5. It's like on the front 9, and he and Ben Griffin were both like one stroke apart or whatever. Scotty hits it like short with this like 7-wood, this like high cut 7-wood up in the front middle.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
And Ben Griffin actually laces a 4-iron, probably arguably a better golf shot, but lands it in the wrong spot, has like this impossible up and down. Scotty has the world's easiest pitch shot. And it's like that made me realize, oh my God, this guy's golf IQ is so high. And, like arguably Ben hit a better golf shot than Scotty did. But who's making birdie and who's not?
Yeah, and dude, big props to Ben Griffin, man. He is so impressive. Great short game. And, everyone's like, dude is long. He has worked so hard. He's coming out there like mid 180s ball speed. I really want him on the Ryder Cup team. He's just playing really great golf. And I thought he played great at Memorial. I know what you're saying. Like, yeah, he landed it like, even pin high. And man, that thing just goes, it's like rolling. It's like a rolling. Okay, then it rolls off the green. Then it like rolls down to the rough. And I think in retrospect, I'm sure he would have. I think Ben even knew where the miss was. I think Scotty, just again, you're trying to make a four there, and Scotty short of the green, Ben short of the green, make a tap in for a lot of the time. So just kind of a bummer for Ben. He hit it a great shot.
He hit a great shot. Like that one to me, it was just like, okay, all right. Like I understand just a little bit more of maybe what Scotty was thinking there. And so
Yeah,
it was just really interesting.
it also goes to the average person doesn't really know how difficult the setups are on the PGA Tour. The pins are often in these dicey places, and man, when you watch on TV, they make it look easy, but even when I'm out there, it's like, man, they're just so good, and the courses are really maybe more difficult at times. Even like an easy course potentially is more difficult if you saw it in person.
So I want to sit on a topic real quick that's been brought up a few times. So Scott Fawcett brought it up the first time on this show.
Scott's been down. He's great. Scott's my guy.
He's originally where I even saw you was when
Oh,
he did the work with you. So his, he kind of had said there was a minimum viable product for speed on tour, and he thought moving forward it would be 180-mile-an-hour ball speed. Some guys have disagreed with that. Some have agreed. I'm kind of curious your take on it, on the importance of speed. A lot of guys say it's around 70. Kind of curious your take on the importance of 180 and if that's really
yeah. I mean, in my opinion, it's a huge deal. Just being at Quail, I've worked with Seabez in the past, and on hole 9, he could barely get it to the fairway. He hit 3-wood. I work with Michael Thorne Bjornsson on Friday. He should have hit 8-iron instead of 7-iron. It's a big deal, and that's the thing with these college kids coming out. And I tell them, it is a speed game, and there's a few courses where you don't need it, but to drive it long and straight is just over 72 holes. It's an advantage. So I am a little bit intrigued. I'd be interested to hear what like Sasha McKenzie would say on this. I do work with James Hart Dupree. I think it's how you say his name, the 6'10" guy, and he's like working to get his speed down to like mid 190s.
Really?
Because a 2% error at 400 yards potentially is. So I've heard talk about that, but here's the thing: it's speed really matters at the next level. It really truly does. Look at why Bryson can play pretty well. Like played well at Augusta with. I think he didn't hit it that good. He's just long. Look at Rory. Look at the majors. I'd be interested in major champion ball speeds. Wyndham Clark, Xander, Scotty might be the shortest.
Yeah, and he's like 178.
Rory, Bryson. So that's why I think Bryson can hang when he doesn't have his best stuff because he's just playing a different golf course. So as much as I don't want it to be a factor, it's an advantage. It's a big advantage.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of been the resounding thing. Like we were talking with James Nicholas. He was on here not too long ago. We were talking about it.
Yeah, he had an awesome qualifier, man.
Yeah, man. I texted him afterwards, and it was so cool because he's just such a great guy. Like he is such a great guy, and it was really cool to see him play him.
It just seems easy to root for. I love guys that grind, and I really like a lot of players that have lost their game. Some of my favorite guys, like I liked Max Homa a lot before I started, working with him back in, COVID times. I've liked Stenson. Steve Stricker's like my favorite player because I feel like I've kind of lost my game, so I really resonate with the guys, like a Justin Rose.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a brutal game, and it's so hard to get your game back. So I really, and then it really makes you appreciate guys who don't lose their game. I think like Rory, he his drop off was like 7th in the world. So guys that really don't lose form are really impressive to me. You think about even like a Dustin Johnson when he played well for however long. It's just very impressive because the golf swing in your game is this fluid thing. I wish what my swing was the same all the time and it felt the same all the time. Well, it's generally always moving in some direction, and to keep it in the tight tolerances needed to play at that top 1% level. So A player loses his game, he can go out, play with you, look great, but at the level they play and what's required at the highest level, you have to be in such a tight tolerance. Even look at a guy like Jordan Spieth, and when he was in his prime, it was just incredible. And then he's kind of battling back to kind of get back in the mix, and I know he's been through some injury and all that, but it just goes to show how difficult the game can be. And then you see a guy like Scotty, and it's like, man, he makes it look easier than it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've had some interesting posts that have kind of influenced, I guess, a little bit of my training in terms of, I want to segue into distance control for wedges, right? So, you've had, let's say, like, a bunker shot from 40 yards, you know how far to take it back, or you gave the analogy of, hey, if I have to get up and down from 70 yards to keep my tour card, I don't want to be guessing in terms of feel. So maybe talk a little bit about what that looks like for you in terms of training and methods and all that.
Sure. Yeah, I like having great answers, and I'm not a big. I don't love to practice things that I feel like you can have an answer to. So, like, how far do you hit your second wedge out of a bunker when you hit it full? What's that number? Like, I know mine goes in a tournament, it'll fly 40 yards. My 55-degree flies 40 yards. Like, so when I have a shot, I laser it. I have a clear plan on every shot I hit. It's only lack of skill and length that hold me back. On paper, I feel like I've got the greatest plan ever. I've got a great mental game. I know exactly the shot I'm going to try to hit. I'm really trying to eliminate feel because I have a tangible solution for it. So I wouldn't mind feel if rangefinders weren't allowed. If launch monitors weren't around, that's fine. But again, Jack Nicklaus used to make his own yardage books. He was just trying to get info. So I like my players to have info so when they have a shot, they know exactly what they're going to try to do. I might misexecute, but it's never because I don't know what the plan is. So I'm very biased in 40 to 100 yards. I'm pretty biased because I feel like there's just such a simple way to have great answers here. If you have, these kids have TrackMan, they have rangefinders, yet they're trying to maybe feel it every day and then hope their feels good under pressure. Well, under pressure, I know what my plan is and I know adrenaline options for my plan, but it's super clear.
So maybe talk a little bit about, for those who don't know, how you would control distance from 40 inside 100. So like for me, I do it with, it's a little bit of arm position, but I do it with shaft angle, right? Because, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but how I was taught. Like, let's say, for example, you have a 9 o'clock. Well, you could have a 9 o'clock up and down. You could have it cocked. You could have it here. So I think about it in terms of shaft angle to control club head speed. But what do you, if someone wanted to build their own answers like what you have, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, I love any plan or any system. That's why I just use arm position because you can do whatever you want with your wrist. So I don't care about your wrist. Yeah, you can have a 9 o'clock with. I just like things when they're quantified and you have a plan because we have rangefinders available and we have launch monitors at most. So if I have a student they don't have a launch monitor, I'm a little bit more lenient. But if you have a launch monitor and rangefinder and your wedge game sucks, it can be some technical, but then I think how you're practicing, you're making it. So often I find players make it more difficult on themselves when there's simpler answers available. So I'm very biased. So for you, how would you carry a ball 50 yards in the air if you had to write it on paper? Because I like my players to not have a target. I think great distance wedges is into a net with a launch monitor, no target. So how would you fly the ball 50 yards in the air from the fairway?
Do you want it high or low, or what do you want? Because I have two different shots. Like I could hit a, bog standard one would be waist high parallel 50.
Great. Yeah, mine would be wedge stance 9 o'clock. My metronome beat.
Yeah.
Locked in.
That's
So
metronome. That's interesting.
My 50-yard shot's been my 50-yard shot for 15 years. I don't ever practice it, but then when people come into Tucson, I'm within two yards of that window all the time. I don't practice. So then if you're getting beat by me who doesn't practice, and you practice a bunch and you can't hit your numbers, and you think it's more practice, but I think it's a better plan. That's that's where in some areas of golf I'm very biased, where I feel like there's easy solutions, and then other times, and especially if you're statistically good in every area in a certain area, I'm a little bit more lenient. If you really statistically stink in an area, I don't care as much what you want to feel because it's not working. What you're feeling is not working. Now we can talk about it, and I'm not going to like force things on any player, but I will present info in what I believe is a simpler way. And you don't have to do anything I say, but I'm going to present a pretty strong case for a lot of things I have biases towards.
You mentioned metronome there. So do you do a lot of your training with metronome? Because that's actually something that I've been starting to implement into my putting and
Sure.
working with the aim point guys.
Great.
I've noticed it's helped with my speed control. You do it also with wedges?
I'll do it. I'll do it anywhere that's needed. The great thing of the metronome is the same tomorrow. Where if you think, hey, I'm swinging smooth today, well, what does smooth mean tomorrow for you? How do you know it's the same? How can you quantify that? So how do you know? Like, and then for
I
like,
don't personally,
you
yeah.
just you just don't, right? So that's why I
Yeah.
like tangible things when they can help. And then maybe a player comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm really swinging smooth. I'll just try to find out what that beat is for them. So then, hey, if you ever feel like you're off, just know that you were swinging at this beats per minute. Not that it matters or nothing to think about, but if you ever notice something's off, you can potentially go back to that tangible rhythm and maybe find what's been missing.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting. Are there any other particular areas you mentioned that you're pretty biased in? Are there any other areas that you would say, you're real biased in that you'd want to get into?
I'm very biased in what I believe is your job in putting and what putting should be and what I think a professional, if you were a professional putter, what that would look like. I've got biases in what I think matters in putting, particularly short putt putting. So I think that if you're great, 6 feet and in, imagine just drawing a big circle around the hole, and if you feel like you make it there, it's good. So why not build what feels like the strongest part of your game if you want to score well in 6 feet and in putting, because that's the finish line. If you thin a drive and you thin an iron and you fat a chip to 6 feet, none of those shots really have mattered yet. So if I thin a drive, if I fat an iron short of the green, if I chip it to 6 feet and I miss that putt, I always, in my mind, if I make a bogey, I try to figure out which shot it was. So for me, I'd want the putt back. And then second, I'd want the chip back. I don't care really how I hit the ball. I need to, when I'm around the green, I must be efficient to score low. That's really how I built my game in my high school days, to go from like mid 90s to 70s over a summer, realizing I didn't have to hit it way better. And then also for people to chase. And again, it's great to have a great golf swing. It's awesome to hit it great. But if you're truly into scoring, if lowest score is the actual goal, then you would do more things to help you score better consistently. So putting, wedge game, 40 to 100, pretty biased. Again, just biased where I feel like there are easy solutions that are tangible, that hold up under pressure, that hold up tomorrow, not just feel good today.
So what does it mean to you to be a putting professional that you mentioned there?
Yeah, what's your job in putting? What's your job? How would you say what's your job in putting? And then if you were going to design a machine to putt, what would it look like?
I mean, for me, my job in putting would be really three things. It would be to perfect my setup. It's one of the main things I focus on. To get the read proper and control my speed. Beyond that, I can't do
Yeah,
much.
I would say your job in putting, if you're going to build a machine, it would roll the ball straight,
Yeah,
a distance,
yeah,
and then you have to aim it. So your job in putting, in my opinion, is to roll the ball straight a distance. So your stroke and some of the things you do should be to roll the ball straight a distance. Well, how do you know if you roll the ball straight a distance? Well, I think I would absolutely start with lining up the golf ball. It gives you great feedback.
totally agree.
And then, in my opinion, again, you don't have to do it. I think it's the simplest way to put it. I always love free information. I mean, I line up my tee ball with my driver. I'm that.
So do I. I do too.
I don't care. I want free info.
Same. Literally same.
Like,
Yeah.
even if it's look clean in place in the fairway, I'll line up my ball. That way I can get free alignment. Now, I understand when people set up over the line doesn't look right. It's usually because you're the problem and you have biases that don't make that line look right. But if you look at the top, we were doing this the other day, there's a high percentage of the top players, the top putters that do that. Players I really like. If you look at Xander roll his line, and I know he's maybe been a little bit off this year, it just is awesome. And Denny and Spieth. So I think, I would start there. Also, it's easy to train at home. When I watch the finals game tonight, I'm just going to line up balls to other golf balls and work on my job in putting. So then when I go to the course, I can work on speed because I can't work on speed at home. But you can develop a putting stroke and roll the ball straight at home. So then you can then spend less time at the course. So I'm always trying to do things so that I have to practice less because I don't need to practice things I can do at home.
How would you, if a golfer wanted to relate that to chipping in terms of practicing less or having good answers, let's say 7 to 21 yards or 5 to 21 yards, how would you recommend that they go about building a framework like that?
Yeah, I could simplify it. What's your job in chipping?
Land.
I'm not expecting you to have
I don't know. For me, it's
a career player, and
it's what I'm trying to hit.
Yeah, your job, in my opinion. So when you hit a chip, how much of that is a putt?
Depends on what is going on. I mean, for me, as much as possible, but
is the ball rolling on the green some? Exactly. So I would say your job in chipping, because you can hit a bad chip, but it might not be your chipping's fault. Maybe you read it bad. Maybe you don't have to also pick spots in short game. I don't mind picking spots if it's reasonable, because if I hit a chip crisply, landed on my spot, my chipping did its job regardless of what happens next. Maybe I pick a bad spot. Maybe I just didn't read the green right. But I know it's not my chipping's fault. Whereas if someone just hits a chip, it goes to 9 feet, but they don't realize they actually did their job. So then I might miss that 9-footer, but I have confidence my chipping's great. I just misread it. I love also when something's going bad, why? What exactly is going bad? So let's say I hit 2 chips, I hit my spot, and they both go 9 feet past on the first and second hole. I can tell myself, dude, great chips. Those were the spot. I wasn't going to pick a different spot, so I hit my spot perfectly. Awesome. The greens now I think are firmer than I thought, so I've got to adjust my spot accordingly and or potentially use more loft in that situation. But now I've got a plan for holes 3 to 18 rather than just my chipping sucks. For most people, their chipping, when they say it sucks, they're not getting the contact they want. And most people, and this would be to your original point, they're not accurate enough to the spot they want to hit. And then again, so that's good to, hey, make a chip and then, 2-putt. Awesome. You're losing 1 stroke a hole. Congrats. Where tour guys are very good, Scotty, I think, and the scrambling number is always less than people think. Scotty right now, I think, is 70% scrambling on tour. I think what typically leads is 65 to 70. But again, it's tour conditions. It's major conditions. They have a lot of really tricky short game shots. But to be able to quantify the whys in why you're struggling or why you're great. So my short game historically has always been great. And then when I do spot hitting drills, it's I just destroy my spots. I'm really good at landing the ball where I want with different trajectories. And I switch clubs. And you don't have to switch clubs, but I switch clubs all the time so that I can make the easiest play hitting my spot. So my bad shots often go to 4 to 5 feet. And the best part of my game is 6 feet and in putting. So I just get up and down all the time. When I hit a bad chip and a bad putt, I'm getting up and down.
Is that feel for you, or do you have...
Yes and no. Yes.
Put it answers.
That's a great one. So Scott Fawcett quantified it.
Yes. That's what I'm asking.
You can ask, yeah, it's great. So you don't have to go that route. But again, Scott Fawcett, same thing. we're in the same camp. I don't love practicing. And then also, if you have solutions, yeah, you can touch up on them, but I don't feel like they need to be practiced a bunch. We just have better answers. So Scott really quantified it. You can ask him how his short game's been. It's been great. For myself, because I've done it so long, it would be like hitting a 10-foot putt, right? How do you hit a 10-foot putt? Well, I'm sure you kind of know what it takes. You've done it so much that you kind of know what it takes. Now, and this is where I've kind of changed my opinion over the years, if someone comes to me, they play golf once a year and they do not practice, and they say, I don't want to practice. Well, at that point, I need to meet them where they're at. I can explain why practice would be beneficial, but if they're like, I just don't want to practice, then I would start to quantify and be like, hey, let's figure out how far a knee-high to knee-high chip goes. Boom, here's your answer. Let's figure out hip-high to hip-high. Boom. Because they're not going to practice, and I need to give them some solution. It's my job as a coach. They want help from me, and rather than me just turning it on them, again, I can explain the benefits of why practice would be good, but I should also be able to have answers for that student, knowing that, hey, they're not going to practice, so hey, let's just quantify some stuff. Cool. So I don't mind that for new players or in that situation, right? I should be able to give them an answer. Like a new, someone who plays once a year, if, when they putt, if it's a short putt, I'll just have them have their feet close together and be like, hey, we're just going foot to foot. You're just spreading your feet on the distance, and you're just kind of taking it foot to foot. You don't have touch. You don't have feel. Let's try to find, hey, shoulder width is about 30 feet. Cool. Go figure out how far feet together, shoulder width, and post shoulder width. Just go on the putting green, hit 2 putts each, mark it down, and then when you have it on the course, you can kind of use that as a guideline.
That's pretty interesting. So, man, it's been a really good conversation, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Another question I had for you.
The thing, this game oozes out of me, and
yeah,
I can't imagine. The game's brought me so much. I absolutely love it. I don't just teach and go home. I really get invested in every person and really want everyone to play great golf as well as they can. So I love talking about it. I love thinking about it. I'm always trying to teach better. I'm always trying to pick smart people's brains. I just want to have the most ways to help the most people. That's why I don't really have any. Now, I have biases because I know those ways help the most people, but I can help. I want to be able to help the most people. And I've just found that one style just doesn't always fit all. There's some concepts that matter for certain shots, absolutely. But there are, to be a great instructor, you need to have multiple ways to solve a problem to help your player get where they want to.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, man. So for you as a player, what's on tap for you this year?
Yeah, so I'll be traveling a bunch more on tour this year. I try to play in every event. I think the next event I will play, I think there's a pro series down here in Tucson. Potentially might play the State Open, Arizona Open. So just a bunch of our local Southern chapter and Southwest events. I'm working on my swing. So I've kind of had a little break these last few months. So working on my swing. I enjoy figuring out my game and looking at past when I used to really hit it great and then now I don't. And this game is such a cool Rubik's Cube. And I believe, and again, you don't have to be a great player to coach, and getting your players better is the priority. I do feel like it helps me to be able to demonstrate, show the guys, get hands-on, understand pressure, understand where we might change a stance on the 18th hole because we're nervous, adrenaline's pumping, like here's options we have. So I feel like it is a bonus, and it does help me coach any player, but it does help with tour players when you can just hit the shots that they're trying to hit and demonstrate and show.
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree with that. So I'm actually considering moving to Scottsdale next May. How is the high level AM and mini tour and all that stuff down there? Is it seen pretty good, or is it?
I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Phoenix is huge. Tons of people. I don't mind I love the desert. I don't mind our summers. Again, Phoenix is going to be hotter than Tucson. That's why I really like Tucson for an outdoor office.
Interesting.
Where like today I was out practicing, it was like low 90s. It felt great. And it's going to get hotter, but we get a lot of like 105. Phoenix and Vegas can get a lot of like 115 to 117. But it's great. I mean, there's lots of money in Scottsdale, tons of golfers. There's I don't know how many millions of people are in the Phoenix surrounds. So it's definitely a golfing mecca.
No, that's pretty sweet. In terms of just general golf courses, comparing Tucson to Scottsdale, I mean, are there more options, more cost effective, any of that stuff?
Totally.
Yeah.
Scottsdale and Phoenix is probably 2 to 3 times the pricing. They have more courses in Phoenix. I like a lot of Phoenix golf a little bit better myself, but the Tucson market, a lot of times people will drive down from Phoenix because the courses have gotten insane. It's like $300 to play just a mid track. That would probably be $100 in Tucson. So the cost up there, I mean, it's like if you want to hit balls at a certain spot, it's like $50. I mean, it's really gotten wild since COVID.
Yeah. Okay.
And they get it. I think from what I understand, there's like 99 private clubs in Phoenix, 99 on a wait list. It's yeah, exactly. And they're asking for a ton of money up front, and you
Yeah.
can pay, but like there's a lot of golf up there. So Tucson's just more chill. I go up to Phoenix quite a bit. They got everything. It's great. Tucson's just a little bit more relaxed.
How far is the drive?
It's about 2 hours, 2.5,
Oh,
depending where you're going.
got it. Cool. Cool. All right. As we're kind of wrapping up here, I just want to give you a chance if there's anything you want to plug or anything else you wanted to talk about, kind of as we're.
Not really. I mean, I'm not an affiliate for anyone. Again, I love brand ambassador for Ping. Coach Deacon's my guy. I work with a lot of programs, consult with a lot of programs. Golf Better Tucson on Instagram. It's back. It's kind of its own thing. So Golf Better Tucson's where I do most of my stuff.
What a mess that was, huh?
It was wild. I had a lot of people help. So I thought I was going to lose it. Thankfully, it's back. So Golf Better Tucson on Instagram is where I'm doing most of my stuff. GolfBetterTucson.com if anyone does want to reach out and schedule anything. And yeah, I love this game.
Cool. That's awesome. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, AJ. Great talking to you, man.